What is THORChain and what is RUNE? How does the blockchain and its coin operate? What are the advantages and the disadvantages of it? Could RUNE and THORChain be worth investing in? Where is RUNE's price going and what has happened to it recently? That's what we'll be looking at in this video. And if there are more cryptocurrencies that you'd like me to cover, please just let me know in the comments below. And if you can like this video and subscribe to the channel, it really helps to grow it so I can do more videos in future. So let's jump straight in. And to begin with, what is RUNE and THORChain? Well, RUNE is the native cryptocurrency of THORChain, and THORChain is a blockchain. So just like ETH is the coin of Ethereum, RUNE is the coin of the THORChain blockchain. THORChain was founded in 2018 and is an independent blockchain that operates as a layer 1 cross-chain decentralized exchange, and it was built using the Cosmos SDK. At the time of making this video, RUNE is listed as being number 66 of all cryptocurrencies by market cap, with over $577 million, which is obviously changing all of the time. It has a max supply of 500 million RUNE, with over 300 million currently in circulation. THORChain's team is largely anonymous, with one developer who's made himself more publicly known, Chad Barrowford, who you can see pictured here. And for full disclosure, I don't hold any RUNE at the moment myself, or am being paid anything to promote it. So this is just very much an unbiased deep dive into THORChain and RUNE. So before we look specifically at the advantages of THORChain and RUNE, let's look at how it works. And to begin with, let's look at node operators on THORChain, called THORNodes. At the time of making this video, there are currently 92 active nodes with 43 nodes on standby, as you can see pictured here. And because THORChain is run by nodes on the community, it's said to be more decentralized than some other projects out there. For example, no one has license or special privilege to be a validating THORNode. Validators are anonymous by design, and information about these changes, as do wallets, every couple of days to mitigate jurisdictional capture and surveillance. Node operators earn 67% of the system income when it's stable, although this is obviously quite fluid, but they have to post RUNE as a bond to secure the blockchain, and currently the minimum bond a node operator has to put down is about 300,000 RUNE. And you can see pictured here that the amount of RUNE bonded is the top address and holder of RUNE. This mechanism is called the incentive pendulum and is supposedly unique to THORChain. Basically, THORNodes have to post an amount of RUNE that is 2 times the value of assets in the liquidity pool. The pendulum then works out if too little or too much RUNE is bonded by nodes. This basically channels trading feeds towards or away from liquidity pools or THORNodes. So it's a balance and game theory, and also an incentive for THORNodes to behave properly, because effectively, if every node colluded together, they would lose $2 for every $1 they could steal. So that's node operators, and let's now look at how THORChain works for liquidity providers. Every outbound transaction from a vault that's made is signed by a random subset of the total validators that exist. This means that no one, not even the validators themselves, know which transactions are signed by whom, which increases privacy, because liquidity providers provide $1 of BTC or any other native cryptocurrency in the pool, $1 of RUNE in the pool, and this needs to be 50-50 with the other crypto asset you're adding. THORNodes then provide $2 of RUNE in the bond from validators. RUNE can therefore be arguably valued at 3 times the total value of non-RUNE assets in its liquidity pool, because in the example on the screen, there's $3 worth of RUNE present for every $1 of other assets, in this case the native asset. So RUNE is used as collateral on THORChain to protect the network, as it's virtually impossible to acquire a controlling stake in THORChain and exploit it based on what we've just seen. And we've just touched on some advantages of THORChain, but let's look a bit more at the positives of THORChain and at RUNE, because we've seen one already, in the sense that THORChain has a few similar properties to Bitcoin, because its team is largely anonymous, which makes it harder to control by centralized institutions. And it also has a maximum supply like Bitcoin, although it is 500 million rather than 21 million, which is Bitcoin, which I personally like due to the lack of huge inflation looking forward into the future. Secondly, and I would say the biggest advantage of THORChain, is there is no wrapping or pegging of assets and no custodians of your assets. With THORChain, you use native tokens or coins, which avoids wrapping and using bridges, which we know can be exploited. And an example of that is if you can see here an image from Chainalysis in 2022 stating that cross-chain bridge hacks amounted to $2 billion. But with THORChain, you can move these native assets across chains, unlike most other blockchains. Node operators run these. Instead of keys for liquidity pools being held by the custodian and a centralized server, they're held in multi-sig arrangements by node operators. This either doesn't happen on most blockchains, or it doesn't translate across different chains. So to summarize, THORChain allows you to operate without using bridges or wrapped assets. And as far as I'm aware, THORChain is the only blockchain which does this, which is its USP. Also, the claim is, therefore, with this and decentralization, that it extends Bitcoin's key attribute of being immutable. In other words, it can't be changed, from the money layer now to the exchange layer, because you can trade a native asset such as BTC with other native digital assets in a decentralized way at scale and earn a yield on native BTC with THORChain. There's no censorship of transactions, no control by a third party, no middlemen or intermediaries, and it's immutable, so it can't be changed. And if this increases the adoption of RUNE further in a big way, which it could as people want to move away from blockchains or centralized exchanges where they can be tracked and banned, for example, then there could be a bright future for THORChain. There's also no requirement to pay for gas in RUNE, because you can pay for gas in the native cryptocurrency asset also. And I'll be doing a video next on how to add liquidity to THORChain on its savers vaults using native BTC, so you can check that out. And the final advantage of THORChain that I'd like to mention is that the project has continued to grow and develop even during downturns, as you can see here. And a specific example of that is lending and borrowing, which was introduced to THORChain very, very recently, which has caused a lot of hype, because THORChain state that there is no interest, no expiration, and no risk of liquidation if you take out a loan. And you can see that the price of RUNE has shot up in the past month or so with this news, and support for wallets such as XDeFi and MetaMask have been added too. So THORChain does continue to expand, which is obviously a good sign. And you can see in the image here THORChain's ecosystem as of January 2023. But having looked at the advantages of THORChain and RUNE, what are the disadvantages of them? Well, firstly, there have been quite a few exploits on THORChain over the past few years, which obviously needs sorting. So some more development is probably needed, but its mainnet did launch in June of 2022, so maybe that's what they were trying to iron out at the time. However, as you can see here, there may still be some vulnerabilities that THORChain needs to solve if it's going to become one of the market leaders and gain mass adoption, which I'm personally not sure of. And that leads me on to the next potential disadvantage, which is whether THORChain will get the traction and demand it needs moving forward, because it is still behind a lot of the other big layer 1 chains when you compare their market caps. Also, centralized exchanges, cryptocurrency projects, and even different jurisdictions could still ban native tokens that have been on THORChain. And if this happens, it could prevent you from getting it off THORChain, because RUNE is basically now only available in its native form, with support for the BEP20 and ERC20 RUNE either having already been removed or plans for it to be removed in the future. So this could hinder RUNE and therefore THORChain, because it could become harder for people to get it. And the final risk of using THORChain that I can see is that a company called 9 Realms, based in the US, which was created in 2021 under the leadership of someone called Gavin McDermott, has publicly taken over THORChain operations, which is a big concern, I think, given that THORChain is supposed to have an anonymous team, but is now being run by a company with arguably the toughest stance in the cryptocurrency market in the US. So this is one to watch, I think, moving forward. But I'd love to know what you think about THORChain and RUNE. Is the future of THORChain and RUNE bright? Is it worth investing in? Or should we simply steer clear of it? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. And have a great day.